The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Well, Dan's got his brew, which means... Oh, that's not Aaron Brewski, by the way. Dan's got his actual liquid brew, which means it must be an evening podcast or an evening recording, and it must be Adrian Benjamin's at the other end that has to deal with it. What's up, my man?
What's going on, Dan? You know, I am not Brew, but my initials are AB.
I know. We're stockpiling. We're stockpiling ABs over here. What a strange maneuver for the good people at Hoop Ball. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today. It is your Tuesday edition. As you guys know by this point, Adrian and I record late on Monday evening. Generally, we have a beverage of some kind. I just saw Adrian take a sip of something dark. Was that a cola? Did you have something in that?
Dan, I'm going a little bit big tonight, so I apologize to everyone in advance. I love IPAs, I love beer, but my true love is whiskey.
Okay.
I got a little glass of just a little bit of Jameson and some cherry soda on top of it.
I've never had that before. I'm not a big hard liquor guy. This is not something for a podcast, but I have a couple of phobias. I think we all do. One of them is related to what might happen to a person if they were to consume a little bit too much alcohol. It also explains why I steered towards other means of enjoyment in my college years. But we're not going to go down that route because that's a deep, dark rabbit hole. And we want to talk. We got basketball to talk about. He is at Adrian Benjamin's on Twitter. I am at Dan Besbris, and this is, of course, an at Hoop Ball Fantasy or at Hoop Ball Tweets presentation. And the reason I want to give all of those out and both Hoop Ball Twitter handles is because, Adrian, I'm sure you're aware of this. The draft guide is out. That's massive, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I haven't gotten a chance to dive into the draft guide yet, but I'm going to dig into there, and I'm super excited, Dan.
Is the best part about working at Hoop Ball the fact that you get this stuff for free now?
I'll be honest with you. I almost paid for it anyways, just because, I do work at Hoop Ball, but I was a big fan of Hoop Ball before I started working there, and I'm a big believer in paying for music and paying for content and just support. It's supporting those people, supporting that business. So I'll be honest with you. I know I can get the draft guide for free. I almost paid for it anyways.
You're a good man.
Just because, yeah.
You're a good man. It helps. It helps the website. It helps fund the work of all the great folks on the writing side here at Hoop Ball. Adrian, myself, Neil, of course, we are handling the podcast division right now. But there's such an unbelievable team of writers at Hoop Ball, and so what I'll say is a couple of points on that, and then we're going to dive into the fantasy stuff. We've got a lot of things to talk about on today's show, most notably Dynasty stuff. This is the third class in Adrian's masterclass on Dynasty Drafting, so we're going to dig into that in just a moment. But I had two things that popped into my head, Adrian, when you were talking about the Hoop Ball Draft Guide. Number one is you said you were a big fan of it before you started working here, and so I'd like to toss it out there to everybody. If you're interested in working in fantasy sports and working for Hoop Ball and providing content, learning how to write for fantasy, learning how to pod for fantasy, whatever it might be, let us know. We're always looking for the best, the brightest, and most importantly, the hardest workers out there. There is a space for everybody, provided that you can sort of put your nose to the grindstone. I had a discussion with a cousin recently who said that their partner didn't know what the term elbow grease meant. But if you've got some elbow grease in your cabinet, that's all we ask around here is that you apply it to something. So let us know. Tweet at us. You can post in the forums, whatever it might be. If you're interested in coming aboard at Hoop Ball, shoot us a note. And, not that everybody immediately gets hired, but if you're willing to bust your hump, there's a pretty good chance you will be. Because, we're not afraid to train people. The other thing that popped into my head was just to mention a few more things about the draft guide before we continue. It's crazy. It's crazy in depth. There are links that go out basically all the time from both of those Hoopball Twitter handles. If you want to check out what's in it, if you want to just go and get it, I believe it's now $13.99. It was $11.99 over the weekend. If you're a repeat subscriber, you get a $2 discount. There are probably going to be other things that pop up, although generally the price does go up as you get closer to opening day. So it behooves you to purchase the draft guide early. But it's got a breakdown for all the different positions, profiles, injury histories, outlooks, recommendations, team previews, depth charts, minute projections, schedule grids. The list goes on, and then there's a bunch of stuff that's coming later, including stuff on Dynasty Keeper Leagues, Auction Leagues, the game-by-game scheduling grid, home and road stuff, percentage pariahs, pace reports, and then my favorite, I always look at the ADP thing. I mean, that is my weapon of choice. I don't know about you, Adrian. Most of my draft strategy comes down to trying to get guys later than their final value. And knowing where someone's ADP is and what direction it's moving, it tells you exactly when you would need to go get them and if they have any value left. That's almost all you need. This other stuff is great, but if you know where somebody's getting drafted, you have a cheat card for the exam.
Yeah, all of the different rankings, the columns that are in there. I'm a huge fan of the Brewski 150. I know that's not available right now.
Oh, right. Yeah, good point.
I love the Brewski 150. Have always been a big fan. I love how aggressive it is. And man, when the draft guide gets released, that's when I know the season's coming. The season's right around the corner, and the draft guide's here. I'm ready to go, Dan.
It's here. It's here, man. B150, by the way, comes out October 1. We've gone over the reasons for this in the past, but I will touch upon them just here for 20 seconds before we dig into the fantasy stuff. Adrian Brewski moves the needle, where when I yell on a podcast about Thad Young and Nico Mirotic, nobody cared. But when Brewski says stuff, people care, and it actually shifts the ADP of guys. So we tend to put the B150 out a little bit later here at Hoopball, such that you have an opportunity to use it before the players' values shift. And, it's not prevalent, but people do use other people's information. And that's not just Aaron Brewski, who's been copied in the past. It's fantasy analysts from all the big websites. So you do have to be a little bit careful. It is done. There is an early access pass for September 20th, which is less than a month from today, although October 1st is not that much more than a month from today either, because it's freaking August 28th, which is crazy. Okay, well, check that out. Go get the draft guide. Again, that's the coal you can throw in here on our locomotive, keep this engine going. If you don't need it, you don't have to get it. We're still going to keep putting this free stuff out all the damn time. Dynasty. Adrian, you have guided us here through 2 Dynasty classes. I've called them affectionately Dynasty 101 and 102, which ended up being the rounds of the draft that we analyzed. We looked at round 1 and round 2 of the 24-team Hoopball Dynasty Draft. I think we might as well just look at round 3, right? Because in a league this deep, you got to see what everybody's doing for at least a handful of rounds, and you can strategize accordingly, right?
Yes, let's get into round 3 of the Hoopball Dynasty League 2 draft. But, Dan, before we get started, can we tip our hats real quick to Manu Ginobili?
Oh, my God,
who decided to retire today. Dan, I know you're a big Laker fan. I'm a big Laker fan. Was very Manu Ginobili was a guy who frustrated me greatly during those rivalry years between the Lakers and the Spurs. But I can appreciate what he's done for the game, what he's accomplished in his career. 4-time NBA champion, I believe a 2-time All-Star. This guy is amazing. And I just got to tip my cap off to this guy, Dan.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and I almost forgot to bring that up. I mean, I did forget to bring it up, not almost. That's crazy, man. I think the only thing that it does beyond what you said is it just makes me feel so old, right? We're like, and by the way, for those that didn't know, Adrian celebrated a birthday a couple weeks ago. He's 17 now, which I'm just going to keep going lower every time. Adrian and I are both older than most NBA players. Let's just leave it at that. So when a guy like Manu retires, and Tony Parker is now a member of the Charlotte Hornets, and obviously Tim Duncan's been out of the league for a couple of years, this is the first time that the Spurs have been without any of those three guys in over 20 years. That's insane. And we are old. Both of those things are true, and they both make me sad.
You know, we kind of connect ourselves to NBA players that are around our age. And when there are still players in the NBA that are the same age as you, it kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's not that it makes you it makes you feel young, but you feel like you're still young enough, right? And one guy for me was Kobe Bryant. Graduated the same year in high school as me, so I always was like, if I was a pro, I would be like Kobe Bryant, where his stage of his career is, if I was in the league. And so, you know, when he retired, that was really hard for me because we're about the same age. So there's only a handful of guys left, Dan, that are around our age. So we're a dying breed here.
We are a dying breed. It's really like it's overwhelming. I had a Twitter conversation about it with Ali here at Hoopball, Floppy Divots on Twitter, who was he said that the official rule developed by he and his boys is you're not officially old if anyone in the league is older, and we're down to 3 basically at this point, which is Vince, Dirk, and the Jet if he's actually still playing this season. That's not enough. I think I know what you're talking about, by the way. And I know we're getting a little bit off topic here on the Manu thing, but it's weird to sort of see like generations of basketball players end up not playing anymore. They got older. Time eventually happened. It always does. But I mean, when you see guys that are close to your age in the league, you have this weird feeling like, oh, you know, there's still time. I could do something awesome like that. And then when they retire, like, oh my God, they're into the broadcasting part of their career, and I started that like 10 years ago. What happened? But it's pretty amazing. He had some unbelievable series. He's been a great ambassador of the game. He caught a freaking bat on a court. Not many NBA players can say they've done that. They had to go get treated for rabies because they instead of playing a basketball game. He's always been it's like so cordial. His interviews have been incredible, like crazy insightful stuff. I hated him for so many years because of that Laker thing, but you could never really. He changed the game too. Like he turned the Euro step into a thing. People didn't really do it the way that Manu did it, and now everybody. Joel Embiid is 7 feet tall, and he Euro stepped around an entire Lakers defense in a game last year. That you can basically give credit to Manu Ginobili for that type of stuff. So tip of the cap, Manu, from all of us here at Fantasy NBA Today. You have not been fantasy relevant for a couple of years, but a hell of a career. And another trophy on the shelf, I suppose. Round 3, Adrian. Let's talk Dynasty. This is what they've come to hear, and this is a third round reversal. So you actually had a pick not that far from the beginning of this round. For those that don't remember, Adrian has been going crazy hard on the young guys so far. Luka Doncic at 20 in the first round, Jaren Jackson Jr. at 29 in the second round, and God help us, Adrian, I'm not even going to ask you about Jaren Jackson Jr. Because if you guys got to go back and listen to last week's show if you want to hear Adrian just like lose his entire. That was one of the greatest segments in Fantasy NBA Today history. But here's how round 3 opened up, by the way. I'll just do the first 5 picks of the round. Dennis Smith Jr. went at pick 49. Boogie went at pick 50. Trae Young at 51. DeMar DeRozan at 52. And 4, Kawhi Loren, that's you, Mo Bamba at 53. So you have gone with players. Do you have a single player who's even half of your age yet?
No, I don't think so. And, I stuck to that super young build. I took Mo Bamba here. at age 20. Dan, don't worry. I'm not going to go on some epic rant like I did for Jaren Jackson Jr.
Please go back and listen, everybody.
I promise myself I would not do that. But look, Mo Bamba, I feel like he's going to be kind of a Rudy Gobert type. I feel like his offense, he's got a higher offensive ceiling. He's, one of the comps going in when he was going into the draft was Rudy Gobert with a jump shot. And I can see that. Longest wingspan ever at the combine, working out with Drew Hanlon. Drew Hanlon saying some amazing stuff about him as far as his offensive potential. Love this kid. He fit my age, that age group that I'm in right now. So, Dan, I went with Mo Bamba here. But love all 5 of these picks. Dennis Smith Jr., 20. DeMarcus Cousins is a little interesting. 28, coming off that Achilles injury. What do you think about that, Dan?
That's a tough. I mean, to get him at pick 50 in a dynasty league, so right, you can sort of hang on and see how the future goes, and hope that maybe he gets back to being a top 30 kind of guy, top 25 kind of guy as the health comes back. But then you have to look to see who you've paired him with, right? Because you're obviously not trying to make a big move this year, or are you? Do you think he's going to be good enough at the end of the season? It's an interesting move. This is a team, by the way, that had already drafted Kyrie Irving and Chris Middleton, I believe, were the selections for Pippen ain't easy in the first 2 rounds. So this is a team that's loading up on established guys and hoping that Boogie can come through late in the season. So there's a little bit of a strategic edge to this. You're taking a guy. In a dynasty league where so many crazy young dudes have come off the board inside the top 50, there's probably going to be an established guy still available that doesn't have that same wild injury risk attached to him that Boogie does. I haven't looked at the rest of this round yet. We're doing this kind of as we go to keep the reactions fairly organic, but Tobias Harris is still on the table. Klay Thompson is still on the table. Eric Bledsoe, Gordon Hayward, LaMarcus Aldridge. These are guys that are playing all season this year and could end up with better value this year than Boogie Cousins. So if you're going this year, don't you want a guy who's going to put you in better position? Because, there's no telling. Boogie might not play a regular season game. We don't know what he's going to do this season. If you're playing for the future and you can get a guy like Boogie in the 50s, 60s, 70s or whatever and hope that he comes back for a couple of strong seasons, that actually makes a little bit more sense to me than taking him here. This to me is, if you're winning now, it's a little bit too early, and if you're winning later, he probably would have fallen a little bit farther. So, a situation where you don't have another pick for 25 to 50 slots, and you kind of have to take your guy, but I think this might have been a hair early.
Dan, Pippen ain't easy. I believe this is our friend Scott Douglas's team.
Oh, can we throw him a big shout out on the podcast for all the insane things he's done for Hoopball lately? Shout out to Scott Douglas. What's let me get the Twitter handle here while you're talking about that pick. I just want to make sure he gets the credit he deserved. He's also putting together a little promo video for the Hoopball Draft Guide. He taught me how to run the video podcasts. Just an absolute beast. SKD_media. Go follow him and use his handiwork. He is a brilliant visual storyteller. Thank you, Scott Douglas, all you've done here at Hoopball. Adrian, please continue.
So it's clear that Scott is going for win now. He's in win now mode. And, although I do agree with you, there probably was some safer picks here. I feel like DeMarcus Cousins is going to be okay. He just posted a video just recently of him working out and jogging and doing shooting. He looks really good. I always thought that he can recover from an Achilles. We've seen a lot of people go through an Achilles and it end careers. And I don't think that's going to happen with him. I believe a lot of what he does is based on his basketball IQ and not so much on his athleticism. But I feel this was a good pick. Dan, DeMarcus Cousins was a monster before he got hurt. He was putting up some really great numbers. So let's just hope he can get back to the Boogie Cousins that we know and love. And also a little curious how this whole fit with the Golden State Warriors is going to be as well.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about it. I think they're going to go real easy this year. I think you're almost better off expecting him to put up big numbers the following year. DeMar DeRozan at 52 felt a little bit early to me as well for a guy that generally puts up value in the mid-40s and is on the second half of his career. I feel like he probably could have come off the board a little later as well, no?
Yeah, I agree with that. I just, as you mentioned, he is 29 years old, so he's in like the later part of his career. I feel like he's at his ceiling right now. Like what he's providing in 8 category leagues, he was player 24, which is great. I mean, that's wonderful. But I kind of wonder if at this spot there were still some guys available that maybe had a little higher upside, maybe just a little bit younger. So I do agree with you. Maybe could have went a little later.
Yeah. That's I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit of a feel for it. But now you get into a few younger guys again. So this is where I gotta bow to your knowledge, Adrian. D'Angelo Russell at 54, Brandon Ingram at 55, Taurean Prince at 56. My favorite of those is actually Taurean Prince at 56. But what do you think?
Yeah, youth served right here. I know you're not a big Brandon Ingram fan, Dan. But
wait. As a fantasy player.
As a fantasy player,
yeah.
Still only 20 years old. One of the things that I love about Ingram, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Okay, so I love that all-around game. I think those numbers can go up. Now, where he hurts you, not big on the defensive stats, right? So I kind of think that can still come. Also, the percentages, of course, aren't super great. Only 47% from the field, 68% from the free throw line. I think he can get better there. So I can kind of see improvement in his game. Still 20, love it. D'Angelo Russell, only 22, love it. And as you said, Taurean Prince, I think, is a great pick. Only 24 years old. Again, I don't think we've seen the best out of this guy either. Finished as the 50th player in 8 cat leagues. I love his durability. Plays 30 minutes a game. Played all 82 games last season. And then we know the Hawks are pretty high on him. Hawks really lacking a lot of talent. So feels like a real safe guy for the near future as far as his minutes and his usage. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I love Taurean Prince. I mean, he was a big time hoop ball guy last year. He had that crazy second half surge. I just feel like, in terms of this weird little youth run in the early middle of round 3 of the Dynasty Draft, he to me is the guy that already has the tools to be a big time fantasy asset. Where a guy like D'Angelo Russell, he has to fix a few things in his game, turnovers, so the decision making stuff. Both percentages for him are not that great. Brandon Ingram can't shoot free throws, hoping that turns around as a Laker fan, hoping desperately that turns around. And then, of course, with the addition of LeBron James, that could change the way his sort of statistics trajectory goes. Taurean Prince, already a guy that has put up 2 or 3 months of top 30 value. He's done it already, which to me, I love it when there's a body of evidence on a guy. That makes my life so much easier. Meanwhile, Adrian, the next picks, I say picks, plural, because there's a run here of like 7 or 8 guys, with the exception of just one, that are all established veterans. Klay Thompson at 57, Tobias Harris at 58, Markelle Fultz, there's your exception, at 59, Nick Vucevic at 60, Eric Bledsoe at 61, Niko Mirotic, my love, my heart, at 62, Gordon Hayward at 63, LaMarcus Aldridge at 64, Steven Adams 65, and Rob Covington at 66. That's 10 picks there, and 9 of the 10 are guys where you basically know what you're getting, and not many of them are all that young anymore. So what does this say? Was this just sort of coincidence? Bunch of teams that wanted guys that sort of could already put up decent numbers and figured, well, hell, we're in the late 50s, early 60s, I might as well grab them, or is there something else at play?
One of the great things about Taurean Prince is that he's a young guy at age 24 that can help you win now. And I think what happened is a lot of those guys came off the board. So now you look at guys that, are in this 26, 27, 28 age range that are that are established guys. And this is exactly what we saw right here. And, these guys are all win now guys, but these guys also still have a lot of tread left on the tire. So all great picks right here. Now, the only guy that I would probably not draft till much later is LaMarcus Aldridge for me at age 33 years old. To me, he's maybe only got, a few years left. Also, I don't know. He's had some real up and down recently. I know this past year he was great, but the year before that, he was really inconsistent. So I don't know, some question marks with Aldridge there. I think I would have done something differently there. I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
Well, I was going to bug you about Markelle Fultz because again, this is where to me, my dynasty knowledge is limited. I can do the early round. Okay, you weigh what direction you're going with your team, but when you get to this chunk of the draft, for me, and I know it's only round 3, but you're already into the picks, 50s, 60s, 70s territory. This is where you kind of have to decide. It doesn't really matter what direction you're taking your team. You have to just take a guy that you think is a good value. You have to weigh so many factors. The one guy in that group that's very clearly on the downslope is LaMarcus Aldridge. The rest of them, you could make a pretty good argument, are young enough to be, well, maybe Eric Bledsoe. You probably lump into that category as well. Nick Vucevic, he's not that old. It feels like he's been around for a while. Tobias Harris, not old. Klay Thompson, he's still got plenty of years in front of him. Gordon Hayward, not old. Niko Mirotic, so on and so forth. You get the idea there. What about Markelle Fultz at 59? This feels like the kind of pick that you would have made if he had fallen to you.
Yeah, I really like this pick a lot. And, Dan, in a dynasty league like this, the unknown upside is the value that really increases. And, Dan, I feel like Markelle Fultz, was really strange year last year with that weird shoulder injury, a lot of buzz that he had the yips and so just some weird stuff going on there. But everything that I've been hearing in the offseason, he's been working out with that Drew Hanlon crew. Lots of buzz. He rebuilt his jumper and a lot of buzz that he looks great. Dan, this guy's only 20, mega athlete. A great handle, great ball handler. So a lot of people, including guys like JJ Redick, feel like he's a future all-star. And, Drew Hanlon spoke very highly of this guy, and he has worked with and he has seen a lot of elite NBA talent. So, if you're buying into that, this is a great place to grab him. I mean, you're not going to see him come back around on your next pick. And as I said, 20 years old, this guy can maybe be an elite point guard in the near future. So I think it's a great pick. I would have probably picked him if he was available on my next round, but he wasn't going to be there.
Yeah, it looks like you might have traded away your 4th round pick.
Yeah, for sure. He's exactly in my age range, so he fits my timeline great. And I needed a guard right here as well. I just went 2 bigs in Jaren Jackson Jr., Mo Bamba. So I would have loved to have taken Markelle Fultz. Dan, real quick, on the last show, you had talked about maybe targeting some veteran players and trying to trade. And, I thought about that. And I realized that that's actually really difficult to do. And the reason is that a lot of the teams that are drafting veteran guys to win now, it's tough to trade with those teams, right? Because those teams don't have a lot of young guys. Like my team is so young, I kind of in a way handcuffed myself. The player pool of guys I could choose from was real small. So it was real difficult for me to try to make trades like that because a lot of the teams that are in win now mode don't have those ultra young prospects that I was looking for.
Yeah, you make a really interesting point there. By taking Luka Doncic in the 1st round, you've basically said, I can't draft anyone now over the age of 26 because by the time Doncic and Jaren Jackson or whoever hit their stride, your other guys would be fading. You would have created that weird flex point where you'll never have your entire team good at the same time. So yeah, that does sound difficult. You draft out of a very narrow pool. Is that, looking back on this draft, and now it's over, so it's not like anybody can steal your strategy going forward, even though there are 23 people that probably listen to this podcast that are in this league with you. Would you have done anything different, I guess? Would you have left yourself any more wiggle room?
Yeah, I think I would have still have went young, but not this ultra mega young team that I built. And as you said, my player pool was real small. And one of the other things that hurt is even teams that are young trying to win now, they were still picking from my player pool. So it was like, as you said, trying to draft a 26-year-old, it's like I got 19 and 20-year-olds here. So it's like it didn't help me. And then, the other thing too, it's like, hey, these teams, maybe I can try to draft a veteran and move them. But even if I move them for like a first round draft pick, Dan, these teams that are in win now mode are going to finish so high that their first round draft pick is going to be really late. So I was just stuck in this thing of just trying to constantly find young guys that I thought are going to be good. Now, as to answer your question, looking back, I wouldn't have done that. Now, this is like my fourth deep dynasty league that I'm playing in. So I did want to try something different. As soon as I started grabbing those young guys, I was like, you know what? I've never done this before. Let's just try to just draft these kids. Hey, Dan, if 6 or 7 of these guys end up as top 50 players in 3 or 4 years, I'm going to be looking good down the road.
Yeah, you in the year 2022, you're going to be destroying this league, and you could for many years in a row. You just need to make sure that this thing, your only task for the next 3.5 years is just make sure that this league doesn't dissolve. You have to keep everybody in it. My team is 2 years away from being 2 years away. Yeah, I was going to say you're 2 years away from middle of the pack. Oh man, no, but I mean, it's a strategy, I mean, what you've done now is, and this is the counterbalance here. This is what you're weighing against. You can draft to win now, but if you build a team to win now, you're probably only going to have 1 or 2 seasons where you have a legitimate shot before you got to go into hibernation for a while. What you've done, Adrian, is you've said, look, I'm not going to win for 3 years. I'm just not going to. But then you'd have a legitimate shot to win every year for a half decade. That's a different beast. You could be in contention for 5 years in a row. You could be in contention when other teams are trying to figure out what their teams are doing. So you've taken this sort of long road with the assumption that the teams that are trying to win now are going to be hot garbage by the time your club is good. And then the other teams that are trying to win later, you've gone even younger than them. So I think it's a really interesting thing. This is a very long case study, but we'll keep an eye on it, obviously, and we'll let everybody know how the leagues are shaking out over the next few seasons. And Adrian, Lord knows, by the way, I'm not going to break any news anytime soon here, but we are working on a new interesting project here come 2018-2019 NBA season. So fear not, you'll be getting a nice heavy dose of Adrian Benjamins. Let's continue here. Pick 67 is where we left off in round 3. We're starting to come towards the end of it. And this is a young guy again in an area that's still largely, I don't want to say fully established, but a little bit more established here, right? Because you got Marvin Bagley III. Then it goes to Josh Jackson of Phoenix, Julius Randle, Al Horford, DeAndre Jordan, Jaylen Brown to round out the third round. So you got Bagley, who's a rookie. You got Josh Jackson, who's a 1-year guy, and Lord knows what his job is going to be in Phoenix this year. This is definitely a play for the future as well. What do you think about those two? Well, one very young and one 1 year in, sophomore. What do you think about those two guys at 67 and 68?
I love both of these guys, and as we said, the youth, the upside is increasing their value here. So this is exactly where they should go at pick 67, 68. Dan, Marvin Bagley, a guy who should be an easy 20 and 10 type guy, should have no problem scoring and rebounding. The question coming into the draft was, can he defend? But, reality-wise, I'm not sure if he's going to help his team win. I'm not sure if he's going to make his teammates better, but from a fantasy standpoint, I think he's going to have no problem scoring the ball, should be a great rebounder, has a very high motor, a good rim-to-rim runner. So I think Marvin Bagley is going to be a nice fantasy asset, only 19 years old, great. Josh Jackson, the only one thing that concerns me, I really hope he gets to become a better shooter, because I think his value is going to be capped until he gets his shooting percentage at a better place. So, but I really like Josh Jackson's game. And, one of these all-around type of players, can rebound, can defend, can score. So, and then at age 21, Dan, both these guys, I mean, the sky's the limit.
What about the old guys right after them? Julius Randle, well, old. Old is a relative term. Julius Randle, not old. Al Horford, a little old. DeAndre Jordan, a little old. Jaylen Brown, not that old. Established. When I say old in this context, I mean established. Jaylen Brown at 72 feels like a really nice grab. And then Horford, DeAndre Jordan, again, you're talking about guys that are established veterans and probably have anywhere from 2 to 4 decent years left in them, I would think. And then with Randall, who the hell knows, really, I guess.
Yeah, with Randall, I almost feel like we could have put him in with this group of Bagley and Josh Jackson, because only 23 years old, still improving. I feel like every year he's getting a little better. So, I think Randall's a great pick. Al Horford's a little scary for me, Dan, only because age 32 was a little up and down last year. Started the season great last year, but kind of ended the year not so great. So, the Celtics are kind of scary for me for fantasy because of they're so loaded. They got such a deep roster. Now, they're not that loaded in the front court. So I think Al Horford's going to be pretty good in the near future. So if you're in win now mode, this is a good pick. But, you definitely need to be trying to win right now to draft Al Horford right here. And DeAndre Jordan, 30 years old. I think he still's got some tread left on the tires. And I think he's going to be rejuvenated on this Dallas Mavericks team. And then let's not forget, Dan, the blocks and the scarcity on the center position. DeAndre Jordan's going to get you elite rebounds and elite blocks. One of the things I love about going for a guy like this here is you grab a guy like DeAndre Jordan or like an Andre Drummond type. It really lets you, for the next few rounds, focus on other positions, because you've grabbed a guy that's such a high-end rebounder and a high-end shot blocker that you can kind of go away from that center position for a while.
That's 3 rounds, ladies and gentlemen, in the books. We have a little bit of a grid here. If anybody, wanted to see it, I could try to figure out a way to make that thing available. Tweet at us. Let me know. I can try to post this thing, because a lot of the analysis here, and this is where we kind of need to go back and look at the build on some of these teams. Like with yours, obviously, Adrian, you're on the podcast here, so you can tell us all exactly what you're doing. And it's not exactly a secret either. Doncic, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Mo Bamba, you're clearly not trying to win right now. But when we see a team draft, say, who do we just talk about? Al Horford, towards the end of that third round, that's a team that already has Chris Paul and Karl Anthony Towns. So you're looking at a team that's really built to win in this moment. He's got Chris Paul. He knows that the timeline there is short. You got Karl Anthony Towns, which is, that's sweet. You can ride that for a while, most likely. But you had 2 ways you could go. You could take Karl Anthony Towns. You could go relatively young and hope that his window is nice and long. Or you can kind of go twice with a guy like Cat at the beginning of the first round. You can go super old right now, try to steal a championship. If your team goes to crap in 2 years, you tear it all down and rebuild again around Karl Anthony Towns, because he'll probably be good for that long. So it's important, I think, to look at how the picks to this point have all come together. And so I'll try to figure out a way somehow. If anybody's interested, send us a note at Dan Besbris, at Adrian Benjamins. If you're actually interested in seeing how these teams constructed themselves and why the analysis is being presented in a particular way, we can probably get that up. And it's kind of cool to see what different teams are looking at doing, like the club that has Porzingis, Bradley Beal, and Taurean Prince in the first 3 rounds, or Paul George, Jamal Murray, and Klay Thompson. An interesting smattering of different types of players. Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, and Otto Porter Jr. Hank Aaron, a team that's certainly in position to win now. Club that has Devin Booker, Markelle Fultz, and Gordon Hayward. Another interesting combination here. So it's a lot of really cool different looks at what's going on in everybody's mind during a dynasty draft. Adrian, how do you balance... Now, obviously, for your current team, let's think more in the broad sense, because in this league, you didn't really have to. Once you took Doncic, you were like, okay, well, I know exactly what I have to do the rest of the way. But in most dynasty leagues, you said you're not always just going maximum youth. How do you balance all of those thoughts kicking around in your head when, let's say that you have, let's put yourself in someone's shoes in our league. You have Andre Drummond in the first round. You have Lauri Markkanen in the second round. Your pick comes up in the third round. Are you going younger like Markkanen? Are you going older like Drummond? Are you doing best player available? How do you balance all that in your head?
Well, I got asked by someone on Twitter, what's the best advice I could give? He was going into his very first dynasty league. And my best advice that I could give is you either go to win this championship right now or you build for the future. You really don't want to fall in between because you get stuck in this, I can't win and I can't also build because your team is so middle of the road. In all my dynasty leagues, I'm either playing for the future or I'm trying to win a title right now. You don't want to get stuck in that middle ground. So you really have to have it while you're drafting. You have to have that in your head. If you're trying to win now, you got to look at the board. Which player still on the board gives you the best chance to win right now? If you're building for the future, which guy on the board gives me the best chance to win 3 to 4 years from now? Dan, one of the things I love about this team, which, as we've talked about, is in no shape to win right now, I have invested interest in these young rookies. I'm going to be watching a game when Phoenix is playing preseason. I got this guy, Eli Okobo, rookie point guard. I'm going to be interested to see the 5 minutes he gets in. How does he look? So it's making these games interesting for me. I have invested interest to see these guys where if I wasn't playing in this league, I wouldn't care to watch Eli Okobo or DeAnthony Melton
who's
or
the
these
oldest
kind
player
of
on your
tier
team?
2 rookie guys.
Who's the oldest player on your entire team? Is it
So
Patrick McCaw?
Very, very, very late, I took Patrick McCaw, who I think is 22, 23.
Oh, my God.
Pull it up right now, actually. And even let's say 4
22.
years from now, 4 years from now, my team finally starts rolling. They'll be 26, 27.
Yeah, they can rent a car. That'll be exciting. That'll be really exciting for your team. They can just pile into a van together and commute from team to team. That's amazing.
It's very scary drafting a team like this because although I do feel pretty safe with guys like Doncic and Jaren Jackson and Mo Bamba, some of these other rookies that I drafted are kind of a shot in the dark. Guys like Hamidou Diallo and Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, this is very risky here. Now, I do like some of the second tier rookies that I got, guys in DeAnthony Melton and stuff like that, but super risky to do a build like this, Dan. It's very, very risky. And lastly, I'm already looking at prospects for the 2019 draft, Dan. I've got my eyes on guys that I'm going to be targeting early for the 2019 draft.
That's unbelievable. Adrian Benjamin's future NBA League Pass subscriber and every night Memphis Grizzlies watcher for Jaren Jackson Jr. Adrian Benjamin's Dan Besbris. This is Fantasy NBA Today, Dynasty 103. By the way, Adrian, I've got some questions queued up here. I got them ready to go for next week's show about the 2019 Dynasty Draft. I want to learn a little bit about how you plan for the future. I think that'll be fun. We'll also do kind of a blitz through round 4 of this Dynasty Draft. We'll start to move a little bit quicker on the picks. We got a lot to cover left. There's a lot of Dynasty left to be had. We are, by the way, because Adrian, you and I do shows together on Tuesdays, I just think we might as well start the countdown. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Tuesdays away from the first day of the NBA season. 7 weeks.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited, Dan. I can't wait.
7 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Start the countdown. 49. If you guys want to do the math, you can check me on that. He's Adrian Benjamins. I'm Dan Besbris. Follow us on Twitter. Get the draft guide. It'll have Dynasty stuff in it soon. Not in it right now, but coming soon. But Adrian's got Dynasty stuff in him right now. And he's one of our experts here at Hoopball on many things fantasy basketball. Tomorrow, I will be joined by Zach Feldman, analytics expert here at Hoopball. Talk to Neil Rochlani on Thursday. We'll go full degenerate like we always do. And Adrian, you and Neil will wrap up the week on Friday. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.